Mr. Chair, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Mr. Chair, your microphone is on mute.
Thank you very much. I understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, city council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. Will the clerk please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are present will indicate that they are when their names are called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Present.
Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Councilmember Alan Dom.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Colleagues present.
And Councilmember Derek Green.
I am present for the hearing. Thank you. A quorum for the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the committees on transportation and public utilities regarding Bill number 210505. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill number 210505, authorizing the Procurement Commissioner and the Chief Executive Officer of Philadelphia International Airport on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into an amendment to the concession agreement for the management of the food, beverage, retail, and passenger services program at Philadelphia International Airport, and an amendment to the ancillary additional services agreement, all under certain terms and conditions.
Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded because the hearing is public. Participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Will the clerk please call the panel for Bill number 210505?
Rochelle Cameron and Clarence Lejeune.
Good afternoon. You are connected and ready to proceed. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Johnson and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Shelley Cameron, and I am CEO of the Division of Aviation, which manages both Philadelphia International and Philadelphia Northeast airports. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 210505, which would amend the terms of the city's master lease and concession management agreement with Marketplace PHL LLC. This bill is supported by the administration and Marketplace. You will be hearing from Marketplace shortly. To provide some context around the important role Marketplace has in our facility, Marketplace essentially serves as the landlord for the airport's concession program. Marketplace provides all of the support services necessary for concessionaires to operate, including delivery and distribution of all products, custodial services, marketing, leasing, providing utilities, common area maintenance, and the like. In return, the agreement that was approved by City Council in 2014 provides compensation levels at 9.75% of gross rents collected, most of which covers the operating costs to administer the program. To put that in perspective, 9.75% of the gross rents collected in calendar year 2019 totaled $4.38 million. That amount was only $1.65 million in calendar year 2020. The calendar year 2020 compensation was not enough to fund the program's fixed operating costs. When the pandemic struck and passenger levels dropped by more than 90%, concession locations at PHL closed and sales dropped by 90%. On March 16, 2020, a mere 12 stores remained open. Today, the airport has approximately 50% of its stores open, but sales are still down by almost 40% from 2019 levels. While we were successful in reopening all airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise operations, over 80 stores still remain closed. And while passenger traffic is beginning to increase due to the summer travel season, I can't stress enough that we have a very long way to go before we can say the airport has recovered. Ultimately, the driving forces that will bring meaningful recovery for businesses at PHL will be the return of business travelers and, more broadly, restarting international air service. Because of these business challenges and the expectation of a multi-year recovery, our team is looking to permanently change the financial terms of the agreement with Marketplace in order to provide financial stability for these businesses. The notable changes include a revised fee structure, which would be the greater of 11% of total gross concession revenues or a guaranteed annual payment of $3.3 million. This revised fee structure will allow Marketplace to operate a modified concession program at break-even levels during the anticipated post-COVID recovery period. The amendment also provides for an additional 3-year renewal option that will be exercisable at the city's sole discretion. The purpose of this extension is to allow Marketplace and its subtenants additional time to pursue or restructure existing financing, to recapitalize facility investments that were implemented pre-COVID, and to support the continuity of the concession program. This bill also provides an amendment to the Additional Services Agreement, or ASA, that was approved by City Council as part of the agreement in 2014. The ASA provides for the Division of Aviation to reimburse Marketplace for certain expenditures related to the concession program, primarily design and construction expenditures for facilities commonly used by subleasees, such as food court seating. The amendment would make the ASA coterminous with the agreement if the city exercises the renewal option. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present testimony today for Bill number 210505. I kindly ask the committee for a favorable recommendation and that the rules be suspended to allow for first reading at the next session of council.
Thank you very much, Shelley, and always good to see you. Always good to see you doing your job, leadership-wise and making sure we move the city of Philadelphia forward as relates to Philadelphia International Airport. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Will the clerk please call the next panelist?
Clarence Lejeune.
Hey, Clarence, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
It's been a while. Good to see you, though.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Just state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Yes, sir. Clarence Lejeune. Good afternoon, Chairman Johnson and members of the Committee of Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Clarence Lejeune. I'm President and CEO of Lejeune & Associates. My firm is a Philadelphia-based minority business and is a 30% owner of Marketplace PHL. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 210505, which would amend the terms of the city's concession agreement with Marketplace PHL. A little bit about me. I started my retail commercial development career here at the Gallert Market East with the Rouse Company in 1984. After 15 years of shopping center and commercial real estate management, in 1998 I became the Vice President General Manager of the airport's concession program, responsible for the daily operations management of the food and shops program. I started my firm in 2019 with my colleague Melwood Hanna, who's another Rouse Company alum, And together we partnered with Marketplace Development to create the joint venture partnership Marketplace PHL. We currently manage 170 food and shop locations at the airport, and in 2019, over 100 of those locations were minority women-owned businesses. The COVID-19 impacts of commerce and businesses at the airport is well known and certainly detailed in Ms. Cameron's testimony. Our operations have gone from as low as 12 stores open today, 12 stores open, to today's levels of operating approximately at 50% capacity. But that only tells part of the story. For the businesses at the airport, especially the smaller minority businesses, in order to open business, it had to invest in PPP, touchless technology, and social distancing measures, but without certainty of knowing when the traveling public or their employees would return. There were periods where average customer counts were equal to 1,200 passengers a day, a major adjustment for the merchants who are used to serving traffic levels up to 100,000 passengers a day. The increased cost of operations, along with the uncertainty and unpredictability of passenger traffic and their shopping and dining habits have impacted our merchants' viability. During this reduced levels of activity, Marketplace PHL continued to apply the resources to meet new requirements, changing levels of employee patterns and issues impacting the subtenants' businesses. This included ensuring that our merchants were aware of the support that was available, financial and otherwise, and that became available as COVID continued to progress. The partnership at PHL and the many hours of responding and planning with all of the levels of the airport personnel has been remarkable. Importantly, Marketplace PHL also maintained our commitment to diverse businesses. Because I'm a small business owner, I personally understand the impact that the pandemic would have had on small businesses. Marketplace PHL immediately decided, along with PHL, to give consideration to opening all ACDBE locations first so that they could remain viable. While we have a long way to go, the federal fiscal year 2020, 41% of gross receipts in our concessions program were earned by minority and women-owned businesses. And the most recent figures for October 2020 through March 2021 show that that attainment is a little over 45%. Like many of you, we are looking forward to shifting from the focus away from COVID-19 and towards recovery for the businesses, for employees, for passengers at PHL. But this will not be a quick or easy recovery, particularly for small businesses who, like many in the food and retail business, are still feeling and will continue to experience the long effects of the COVID pandemic. To put into context, in federal fiscal year 2019, over $88 million went to minority businesses in the concession program. In federal fiscal year 2020, the number dropped to 47 million. It's important to note that the federal fiscal year 2020 began in October of 2019, so the actual impact was far greater than just a 50% reduction. Since the real impact of COVID-19 on air travel did not begin until February of 2020, an amendment to our agreement will allow Marketplace PHL to continue to support and grow the diverse business base, enhance the passenger experience, and to continue the long tradition as the airport being the economic driver in the region. My firm, Marketplace PHL, and our over 170 merchants and our 2,000 employees, thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony today on Bill number 210505. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. Before I open up to my colleagues for a couple questions, Clarence, can you give me specific numbers on the number of minority businesses that are at Philadelphia International Airport under the agreement with Marketplace, so the specific number, and then also, I don't know if it's fair to ask for this information like right now, but also the demographics and the sales revenue of those individual businesses. And it could be in the aggregate as well.
Okay. So go ahead, Shelley, you want to say something? Okay. So again, the number of businesses is about 43% of the entire locations.
Can you give me a number that's, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 businesses?
There are almost 100 locations that have ACDB partnerships.
Okay, so about 100 at the Philadelphia International Airport are minority businesses.
That's correct.
Has the certifications, correct?
Yes, sir. They have certifications, and they're also partners or individual owners.
Okay. Can you provide out of those 100 aggregate sales revenue of them together?
Councilmember Johnson, Kathy Padilla, who runs the federal ACDBE certification process, is, I believe, also on this, and she has those numbers for you.
Thank you. Hey, Kathy.
Hi, good afternoon, council member. My name is Kathy Padilla, and I'm the Deputy Director of Aviation for Diversity and Inclusion. Looking at our breakout for the last 2 quarters of the federal fiscal year, we're looking at $30,481,693 program dollars and $13,901,416 going to ACDBEs. The location breakouts by ethnicity are 36 for Black Americans, 2 for Hispanic Americans, none for Native American, 26 for Asian, Indian American, and Asian Pacific American. We have 13 locations.
Could you just provide that data for members of the chair and members of the committee?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. That's the only question that I have. I'm going to open up to members of the committee. If there are no questions from members of the committee, I want to thank Councilman Derek Green.
Yes, I just want
to. And next, Councilman Allen Dowd.
I want to thank both.
Kind of can't hear you, Derek, and so could you? It sounds just a little far away.
Okay, let me talk a little louder. I want to thank both Cameron and also Mr. Lejeune for the work you're doing. It's a very challenging year. Curious in reference to what you see. Opportunities. Cities starting to be open.
I'm sorry, Councilman Green. I can't. You're going in and out. I can't hear your question. I'm sorry.
Hold on one. What I was saying is I see more and more cities starting to reopen, more and more travel. And so can you give me some perspective on what you see as the opportunities for growth, especially for in the commercial travel space? Because that's an area that's a really concern. And how's that going? I see that the leisure travel has been going, and also conventions will hopefully be coming on as we get into the last quarter, or maybe not last quarter, more next quarter, first quarter, second quarter of next year. But how do you see that growth, and how they're helping you, Mr. Lejeune, and some of the minority businesses like yourself and others at the airport, as well as just growth at the airport as well, especially for our employees that work at those locations or also work for the airport?
So, Clarence, let me take the first part of that, and then you can take the second. Thank you, Councilmember Green, for that question. And you're exactly right. That's one of the things that we worry about the most is when is business travel going to come back? Things look pretty strong this summer with leisure travel, as you said. But that once everybody takes their vacations and school goes back to normal in September, we're very concerned that if business travel hasn't returned, we'll have this huge peak in the summer and then just this great big valley in September and through the winter. We are doing passenger intercept surveys right now with our airport provided Wi-Fi system. And essentially, if you log on, you might get a couple of questions. What we are asking is how many people are traveling for leisure versus business. And what we're finding is that, say 4 or 5 months ago, the business travel percentage was only about 10% of total. Lately, it's been as high as 20, 23, 24%. So it is increasing. I mean, it's doubled, but it's still less than half of what it was pre-pandemic. Before the pandemic hit, we were at about 45% business travel. So it is a concern. And Clarence, if you want to note the impact on the concessions.
Well, again, to echo Shelley's point, a lot of the Philadelphia business centered around business travelers, and I think this testimony today is sort of a clear example of how everything's changed and how people are doing business. So, for us, Philadelphia has always been a tremendous airport. It has historically responded or rebounded from other incidents that have happened around the country faster than other airports. So we're very optimistic that will continue to happen. But the realities of how this has impacted the business traveler, to Shelley's point, the leisure travel business is great because I think we're sort of in a cocoon, if you will, and just needed to get out. But traditionally, the summer shows peaks because of tourism and then sort of dies after the summer. And we don't really see an uptick usually until March or so. When spring travel starts all over again. And our sole reliability in those soft months is really the business traveler. So now that that's gone, it's going to be a transition.
And, I would just add one other thing to what Clarence said, and that's that some of our concession operations were really kind of geared towards the business traveler. Brooks Brothers, as an example, Toomey, others that really were catering to the business traveler audience, and those businesses have in particular suffered. Clarence, I don't know if we've ever really, I haven't, but you probably have looked at the spend between leisure travelers and business travelers, and generally speaking, I think it's lower with leisure travelers.
That is correct. Leisure is much more, I'm on vacation. So food and beverage is always consistently high with leisure travelers. So a lot of the tenants that we have open currently are primarily food and travel, and the retail portion of the business came very later in the rollout. So, the business travel, however, is core. I mean, the guys who travel 3-4 times a week, 3-4 times a month, they sort of kept us going when families and vacation were not a factor. So we're hopeful. But I'll bet on Philadelphia every single day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Allen Dom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon. I just had a few quick questions. I just wanted to clarify for the record, and probably this is for you, Shelley. The increase from 9.7 to 11, that comes out of airport funds, not city funds.
That's correct. Essentially, the technical way that works is Marketplace takes in all the rents from the subtenants, subtracts their piece to manage and operate the concessions, and then whatever is left comes to the airport in terms of revenue. So it's really it's airport enterprise funds only. It's not city other funds.
And then my other just a comment is because of what happened to all these small concessionaires and even Marketplace PHL, I'm hoping that they all were able to apply for PPP funds round 1 and 2. I'm hoping maybe these small concessionaires could apply for that restaurant grants that were available. And I'm also wondering if I know there's a tax credit being offered by the federal government for retention of employees, that maybe if we haven't I just want to give them the support services so all these individuals can be able to obtain the federal money. Is that something that we're working on, or we have been working on?
Yes, we have. We have certainly made whatever information that's been available to us that would assist in the merchants to maintain, their longevity. We've passed that on, and many of our merchants have participated. The most recent restaurant offer, we passed that on to all of our merchants. We've offered any support we can in helping them get those applications taken care of. So we've all taken full advantage of every opportunity that's been available to us.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clarence. Thank you very much, Shelley. I just want to follow up on just something additionally in terms of information requested, Shelley. And I know I talked to you offline, but could you also just provide in terms of, again, the number of minority vendors, 2, the revenue that they're bringing in, 3, the demographics of each individual vendor's makeup. And so rather, this how many employees and what those demographics look like in terms of the people who are actually working with them. And then also in terms of making sure we're supporting our businesses who are at the Philadelphia International Airport. So just clarify the relief that came down from the federal government in terms of relief funding that supported businesses at the airport in terms of rent relief. Is that correct number, $27 million that was mentioned at the last hearing? In terms of moving forward, how will we be supporting them is that going to be extended in terms of the rent relief program?
Yes, sir. So to answer the first question, we will provide for the official record the information that that you asked for last Friday with the numbers, everything by the numbers. The second program regarding the airport provided relief program for the concession operations. So that is correct. It was about $27 million that we received from the federal government that was specifically earmarked for concession relief. In other words, if we were going to access that money, we had to provide it to the concession operators in the form of some sort of relief. What we did is the way the subleases work is most of them have what is called a minimum annual guarantee or percent rent. And percent says that they have to pay the higher minimum annual guarantee or the percent rent. With so many operations closed, with not bringing in any revenue, if you will, it was unrealistic to be able to ask for minimum annual guarantees. I mean, there was just no way that we could do that. So what we did was we said, okay, we will waive minimum annual guarantees and go to percent of sales, percent rent only until on a terminal by terminal basis, we're at 70% of our numbers from 2019. So in other words, until we get to at least 70% of the numbers, terminal by terminal, those concession operators will not have to pay minimum annual guarantees. They'll only pay a percent of sales that they actually make. And we felt that was something that we had to do to be able to ensure the viability of these businesses.
Absolutely. Where are we now in terms of you evaluating, and I know we're slowly starting to come back, right? Post-pandemic, well, if we could say post-pandemic, right? Terminal by terminal, how are we looking?
I don't have the latest numbers that we have are April. They just came in this morning, so I don't have them committed to memory. But we are, in April, we were still down 40-some% over 2019 levels. We are expecting this summer to perhaps be around, the upper 60% levels of 2019. So we're getting close. And again, as long as things continue to come back after the summer travel surge with the business traveler, if we can, reopen our transatlantic routes and international traffic comes back, then, we might get there. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to be optimistic, really optimistic and say it's going to be this fall, but it's coming.
Cool. Okay. Could you provide me that information from that report? the April report? When you get a
Absolutely.
chance?
Yep, it's on our website, and we'll send that to you as well.
Absolutely. Okay. That's pretty much it. I'm optimistic. I think even business travel going to come back. Listen, I know we can do Zoom, right? But I think most people, right, prefer to do business in person, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I know from travel, from maybe one city to another city, jumping on Zoom, it does cut down costs depending on your corporation, right? I did see a report in Bloomberg, I think it was Bloomberg's Business Newsweek or something, that kind of compared the employee that actually comes into the office versus the employee that's coming at home. I mean, that's working from home.
Right.
But the report talked about how the person that actually comes in is at more of an advantage than that person who calls himself working from home. And listen, that's Michael Bloomberg report. I'm just doing some business reading and said, okay, well, now I see the politics and the dynamics of getting ahead,
right,
versus who's in the office versus who's working virtually, and the office politics around advancement and moving forward. So we shall see. But ultimately, I'm a fan of the airport and would like to see us get back to business, as usual at some point in time in the immediate future. So I just want to personally just thank the two of you for taking time out of your schedule. And if there is no other questions from members of the committee, I just want to say thank you for your Councilman Alan Dom.
Thank you. Just for you, Shelley, a quick comment. I know you mentioned before that the business travelers spend more money at the concessions than the leisure travelers. Is there any way that we could start a program with our airlines where we could offer $10 or $20 gift certificates to the concessions that included in your airfare, so we could get those local concessionaires some more money?
We can definitely bring it up with the airlines. I think that could have some possibility. I know Clarence is definitely in support of that idea.
I shall report, Alan, to American Airlines later this evening. Your proposal. I think it's a worthy give back.
No, but I'm even saying if there's some 50% contribution or something we do to get more business activated at the airport.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, and we can work with American and see what we can do. We already started doing mobile ordering, and American does push that mobile ordering feature out within their app. So flights that are coming into Philadelphia, if folks are on the American app, they can actually pre-order for pickup as soon as their plane lands. And, that's been a real boon, pre-pandemic anyway. So, we'll talk to them and see what is possible with them.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you, Councilman Dom. Any other questions or comments from any members of the committee? Is there anyone else here to testify on the bill whose name has not yet been called? Okay. Thank you very much, Shelley. Thank you very much, Clarence. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to thank everyone who served on the panels and as witnesses for their participation today. We value your input. I now invite all panels and witnesses to please disconnect from the meeting before we go into our public meeting. We will now pause the proceedings briefly as multiple participants leave the hearing. This concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before this committee today. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Present.
Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Alan Dom.
Present.
And Councilmember Derek Green.
Present.
Thank you. We will now go into our public meeting. The chair recognizes the gentleman from South Philadelphia, 1st Councilmanic District, Mark Squilla, for a motion on bill number 210505.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that bill number 210505 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Can I have a second?
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Kendra Brooks seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 210505 be reported on this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. This concludes the meeting. If there are no additional remarks, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your schedule for being here for the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities today. Thank you for your attendance, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.